We're back, Heartland fans. Today we're going to talk about something very special and touching. Ty Borden's grand return in Heartland Season 19, Episode 1 has finally aired, and it was nothing short of breathtaking. From emotional reunions to deep-rooted pain, the episode delivered a whirlwind of feelings, surprises, and healing. If you're a long-time fan of Ty and Amy's love story, or if you've cried along with the Fleming family through seasons of loss and growth, then this video is for you. Before we dive deep into every emotional beat of the episode, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts below, and, most importantly, subscribe for more weekly Heartland content. I promise, we're just getting started this season, and there's so much more to talk about. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's take this emotional journey together as we break down Ty's return and the profound reactions from Amy, Lindy, Jack, Lou, Georgie, and Tim. And most of all, the heartfelt moment between Ty and Amy that fans have waited years to see. The premiere episode of Heartland Season 19 opens with a tone that immediately feels different from past seasons. There's a haunting calmness to the early morning at the ranch, the soft golden light of sunrise washing over the familiar landscape, the sounds of horses stirring in the distance, and Amy waking from a dream that leaves her breathless. She clutches the old photo of Ty on her nightstand, staring at it with a strange mixture of pain and hope in her eyes. It becomes clear throughout the course of the episode that Amy has been having vivid, recurrent dreams about Ty. These dreams are more like glimpses into something real than memories. These aren't the fragmented, blurry dreams of grief. No, these dreams feel alive, tangible, as if her heart is telling her something her mind can't yet understand. Jack, the ever-wise patriarch of Heartland, begins to subtly acknowledge that perhaps something is shifting. He drops a few philosophical remarks about fate, love, and the strange ways life circles back. "The heart remembers what the mind forgets," he says to Amy, planting the first seed that maybe, just maybe, Ty's story isn't over. And then, as if summoned by years of longing and unanswered prayers, the moment finally arrives. Horses neigh in the distance. A truck pulls into the yard. Amy walks outside, barefoot on the dewy grass, and stands frozen as she sees a man step down. The world goes quiet. It's Ty, older, worn by time, but unmistakably Ty. Their eyes lock, and for a long moment there are no words. Just raw emotion washing over both of them, and over us as the audience. It is a powerful and long-awaited moment that sets the stage for the subsequent emotional journey. The moment Amy sees Ty standing there alive is both beautiful and terrifying. She begins to tremble throughout her entire world, which she had meticulously rebuilt after losing him. In the silence that follows their first eye contact, Amy's breath catches in her throat. She moves toward him slowly at first, as if afraid the vision might vanish, and her knees are close to giving out. When she finally reaches him, she lifts trembling fingers to touch his face, needing to confirm what her heart is already screaming, that this is real, that he is here. Ty doesn't say anything at first. He just gathers her into his arms, holding her so tightly it's as if he's trying to make up for all the lost years in one embrace. Amy doesn't cry immediately. She's too overwhelmed. But later, as the shock wears off, the inner storm breaks out. She confronts Ty in a whirlwind of emotion: love, anger, heartbreak, confusion. "Where have you been?" she demands through tears. "Why did you let me believe you were gone?" Ty, his voice heavy with guilt and grief, explains the tragic truth. After being shot, he suffered memory loss and was believed to have died during transport. In reality, he had wandered far from home, suffering amnesia and living in isolation under a new name. It wasn't until a recent fall on a ranch where he worked that his memories returned, flooding back with overwhelming clarity. He says he got on the first bus home the moment he remembered Amy, Lindy, and Heartland. Amy listens, her heart breaking all over again, but this time with understanding. Through her tears, she whispers, "I never stopped loving you." Not for 1 second. It's not just a reunion. It's a resurrection of a love that never truly died. The soft crunch of gravel beneath Ty's boots was the only sound as he stepped into the ranch yard. And at that very moment, Lindy stood on the porch clutching a small, worn-out photo of her father, one she had held on to every night before bed, whispering to it as if he could hear her. Her innocent eyes, wide and unknowing, caught a glimpse of the man walking toward the house. Her heart didn't understand the depth of what she was seeing, but something inside her, pure and instinctual, made her step forward. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling but clear. The moment held its breath. Time seemed to stop. Ty turned toward the sound, and when his eyes met hers, there was a recognition deeper than words. Lindy ran, not out of confusion or fear, but with a joy so overwhelming that it could only come from the soul of a child meeting a piece of herself that had been missing. Ty wept uncontrollably as he knelt down to meet her as she wrapped her tiny arms around him. It was the kind of reunion that wasn't made of grand speeches, but of raw, unfiltered emotion. In that hug, tight and desperate, was every bedtime story she'd imagined, every moment she'd missed him, and every unspoken prayer finally answered. Lindy didn't need an explanation. Her heart already knew. Daddy was home. Jack Bartlett had seen his fair share of miracles, loss, and hard-won redemption, but nothing prepared him for seeing Ty Borden standing at the edge of Heartland again. His weathered hands gripped the railing of the barn tighter as Ty approached. Every step a silent echo of the young man Jack had once taken under his wing. Jack's face, lined with years of wisdom, betrayed little emotion at first. But his eyes, they told a different story. Beneath that sturdy cowboy hat was a storm of feelings he hadn't dared to hope for. When Ty finally stood before him, silence hung between them, heavy and sacred. Jack didn't speak right away. He looked Ty in the eyes, searching, questioning, remembering. And then, without a word, Jack reached forward and pulled him into a firm, grounded hug. It was brief, but it said everything. "You've come back," Jack finally muttered, his voice cracking slightly. "And you've got a hell of a lot of explaining to do." It wasn't anger in his tone, it was pain, layered with love, and the guarded hope of a father who had mourned the loss of a son. Jack wasn't just relieved, he was reminded of the precious fragility of time, and how sometimes life gives you a second chance to do right by the people you love. And Jack was determined not to waste a second of it. Lou stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she set down a cup of coffee she hadn't even sipped. From the window, she had seen him, Ty, alive, standing, breathing. Her logical brain tried to make sense of the impossible, listing off the reasons why this couldn't be real. But her heart, oh, her heart, had already recognized him. She walked out onto the porch slowly, every step feeling like she was crossing into a dream she had long buried. Lou's face was a mix of awe and pain, her eyes darting between Ty and Amy, then down to Lindy, who clung to him like the missing piece of her world. "Ty, how?" she asked, her voice catching. Under the surface there were 1,000 feelings. Betrayal for the years of silence, happiness that her sister had her husband back, sorrow for the birthdays and holidays she had missed, and, most importantly, a fragile hope. Lou had always carried the weight of the family on her shoulders, always trying to fix, to plan, to make sense of the chaos. But this was beyond her control. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to just feel. She took a step forward and wrapped Ty in her arms tightly, as if welcoming a brother back from death rather than a trip. She needed this moment to be real, not any explanation, as her tears soaked into his shoulder. And somewhere in that embrace, Lou found something she had almost forgotten: hope. When Georgie returned from training and saw the family gathered in a tight circle near the barn, she knew something had changed. But nothing prepared her for the sight of Ty, alive, older, weathered, but unmistakably him. Her jaw tightened, not with anger but with emotion held back too long. She had become strong in his absence, learned to fight, to ride, to lead. But this was a different battle altogether. For years, she had carried Ty's teachings in her heart: strength, loyalty, compassion. She had ridden every competition with his voice in her head. Now, facing him in the flesh, those lessons felt like a ghost walking back into her life. She said, almost accusingly, "You're really here." Despite having a powerful voice, her eyes sparkled with unwiped tears. After all this time, Ty opened his mouth to speak, but Georgie held up a hand. "You don't have to explain, not yet." And then, in a moment that revealed just how much she had grown, she stepped forward and hugged him. Not like a lost girl clinging to the past, but like a woman who had learned to stand tall on her own and still chose forgiveness. Her growth was not in pretending she wasn't hurt, but in embracing the return of a man who had helped build the foundation of who she had become. Tim Fleming had always been the rough-and-tumble type, never good with emotions, always quicker to raise his voice than show his heart. But when he saw Ty walking across the ranch like a man who had crawled through time and memory to get home, something cracked deep inside him. He didn't rush to embrace, he didn't cry. Not immediately. He stood tall, jaw clenched, arms folded, trying to make sense of the storm brewing in his chest. "You've got some nerve," he muttered when Ty finally stood before him. "Disappearing, letting us think you were gone." But his voice betrayed him, wobbled, frayed at the edges. Ty didn't defend himself. He just nodded. That silent understanding broke whatever wall Tim had left. "Damn it, Ty," Tim whispered, eyes suddenly wet, fists clenching. "We buried you, we mourned you, and now you're just here." His voice cracked, and before he could stop himself, Tim pulled Ty into a fierce hug, patting his back with force that masked the tenderness beneath. In that moment, the tough cowboy facade dropped, and what remained was a father-in-law who had lost a son and now, miraculously, had him back. The hug was brief. But when they pulled apart, there was an unspoken agreement. Whatever happened next, they'd face it as a family. Later that evening, after the chaos settled and the ranch went quiet, Amy and Ty stood alone in the loft of the barn, where their love had once bloomed, where their story had begun. The soft glow of lantern light cast golden shadows, and outside, the crickets played a mournful tune. Amy stood near the window, arms wrapped around herself, tears staining her cheeks. Ty took a step closer, but he didn't speak yet. He waited for her to look at him, to let him in. When she finally did, their eyes locked, and the silence between them spoke volumes. "Why?" Amy asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you come back?" Ty took a breath, eyes heavy with guilt and love. "I wanted to, every day, but it wasn't safe. I was protecting you and Lindy. There were things I couldn't control. I never stopped loving you." Amy shook her head, pain etched in every movement. "We grieved you. I raised our daughter alone. I didn't just miss you, Ty. I needed you." Her voice broke, and in that moment, Ty walked forward and gently took her hands in his. "I know I broke your heart," he whispered, "but if you let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making it whole again." The floodgates opened then, for both of them. Amy sobbed into his chest as Ty held her close, like a man who had fought through fire just to hold his wife again. They kissed, not with urgency, but with aching tenderness. In that embrace was every goodbye they never got, every night they had spent alone, and every hope for a second chance. It was love reborn, not perfect, but real. And in that moment, they both knew this was the beginning of a new chapter. One that was written about love, forgiveness, and the promise of a future they would fight for together rather than tragedy. And that, dear viewers, was the emotional and unforgettable Heartland season. 19, Episode 1, The Return of Ty Borden. It was everything we hoped for, and more. filled with tears, reunions, closure, and the promise of a beautiful new beginning. What did you think of Ty's return? Were you as emotional as we were watching Lindy call him Daddy, or seeing Amy finally feel whole again? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to like and subscribe.